Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Booktube Chicks Book Club. Tonight, we're going to be discussing our June pick, which was The Vermillion Emporium by Jamie Pacton. As per usual, my name is Chloe. You're on my channel, and I am joined by my co-host, Kathleen, who's going to introduce herself in just a moment. If you've never been to one of our live shows before, the way that it works is we're going to do the next 5 to 10 minutes of introductions and just spoiler-free talk of what our initial thoughts were with the book. And then we're going to do about 20 to 30 minutes of spoiler discussion and before we talk about next month. So, Kat, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself while I share the link?
Yes. Hi, my name is Kathleen. My channel is for the love books, even though I don't really post there anymore. Um, I wasn't sure about what I was getting myself into going to this book. Um, it was just one of two picks, and I just happened to pick this one from Chloe's choices. But I was pleasantly surprised. I actually enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. It is a YA fantasy, but it's not like high fantasy. It's Chloe described it as a cozy fantasy, and I agree with that. So basically, it's these two kids who discover this place called the Vermillion Emporium, and there they find this starlight that you can weave it into fabric, and you can create dresses from it. Blah blah blah, and she one of the main girl, the main character, she makes dresses for this important person, and then all of a sudden everybody wants it and it gets them in trouble. And it's a really entertaining book, but it doesn't go, there's no like, how should I put this? There's no high demand in it like a regular super high fantasy book. Even YA high fantasy, there's a lot of stakes at place. There's a lot of violence sometimes. There's battle scenes. There's a lot of strategy with like planning the wars and stuff like that. This was more, it was a book that moved forward. There was some scheming and things like that, but nothing that you would expect from a high fantasy. It was enjoyable. The main characters, it's a couple. They do like it. It the thing with YA, I don't read YA as much as I used to. Um, this reminds me very much of YA and why I really stopped reading YA. The characters just seem very very young, and obviously I'm no longer that age bracket. Um, but just very young, especially the romance in it. They barely know each other, and yes, they're spending a lot of time together. They're going on these adventures together. But it's all of a sudden like I've never met a girl like this before. I'm in love with her. She's so different, and I'm just like, it's cringy. And so the only thing that I was just like, okay, I get you like each other, and that's great and everything, but it's just really really cringy to me. So that's one of the reasons why I ducked I took out a star from my rating. Not that I hated the romance by any means. It was fine. It was just very young. But I like the story overall, and the whole premise of the starlight being woven into fabric, and it was cool. So 4 stars for this book.
So this is random. I noticed I spelled the title wrong on our thing, and I'm like, I wonder if it'll let me fix it while we're live. And I don't think it's going to, but I'm going to click this button and I want to see what it does. Okay, no.
No, it doesn't. It'll fix it after, I think,
Yeah.
after it gets published or whatever.
I'm like, what am I clicking here? Let me see. Okay, anyway, sorry. You said you gave it 4 stars?
Yes.
Okay. I also gave it 4 stars. Um, so fun fact, this was the oldest book on my NetGalley shelf. And I don't remember initially if I requested it from NetGalley or sometimes I'll get emails like with the widget like, "Hey, you want to read this?" But if I'm thinking back correctly, because this was 4 years ago that this book came out, probably roughly around that time or shortly before it, I read Jamie Pacton's 2 YA contemporary books, which I can't see off the top of my head, but it was like the life and medieval times of somebody, and then Lucky Girl. And I really enjoyed both of those books, especially the Life in Medieval Times book. So I think I was like all in my like, yes, let's read more from this author, and this fantasy was coming out. Um, and of course, it sat, and here we are. So the best way that I can describe this for me, and it makes sense in my head. I don't know if it makes sense when I say it out loud, but and I think I texted you this, when you're reading a book and you're like absolutely obsessed with it, like eating it up, you want to get it done as quickly as possible. Or like if you're hating a book, but you're not going to DNF it, you want to get it done as quickly as possible. For me, this was neither of those things. I kind of was just taking my time. I wasn't like rushing through it. I was just listening when I could. Um,
Yeah.
and I was having a good time with it. Like it kept me entertained. And cozy fantasy was the best way for me to describe it at the point that I was at in the book. Not a lot had happened. There wasn't a lot of high stakes. Of course, about 5%, reading 5% later, when I hit around 60%, the stakes shot up a little bit. There was some life or death going on that I hadn't expected. But overall, like it was just a really easy read, very chill. I will say the 60%, the last 40% kind of like dragged a little bit because I felt like, how is this still just going on and on and on? Um, but overall, I had a good time with this book, and I'm happy to have finally read it. Like 4 years later, finally got it done. And I gave it 4 stars as well. I enjoyed it. I don't have a lot of like, I'm not like obsessed with it. It wasn't terrible. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. So now we can go into spoiler discussion. Um, so the Starlight. We're all wondering through the whole point of this book, like, well, how do you get the Starlight at? Where's the Starlight come from? And it's inside of you.
Yeah, well, so the ones that they found inside the Vermillion Emporium, remember
Mhm.
when they discovered that one was from her mother, right?
Mhm.
But then they went out and they found more Vermillion Emporium, right? I mean, Starlight outside of the Vermillion, didn't they?
Yes, but they were saying that it's also probably remnants from her mom's like stash that
Oh,
got
okay.
like blown away or something like
But
that.
yeah, I guess the Starlight is people. I was thinking of like they call it Starlight, but I was thinking it's more like people's souls.
Oh, that makes it darker.
Right? That's what I was thinking because because her mother in her letter towards the end said, don't use this because it'll kill you. And I started thinking also it's more like, it's stealing somebody's soul, and eventually when it consumes all the soul, it kills the person, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I was just thinking that they call it Starlight, I don't know,
just for the
because
hell
of
of
the
it.
way it looks, but I started thinking more like it's somebody's soul, and I don't know.
I almost feel like the Vermilion Emporium in this, while it did end up being relevant and helpful, I feel like after they kind of figured out the Starlight situation, it wasn't really about the Emporium anymore. Because
Yeah.
they were really only in the Emporium like 3 times in the whole book, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it's more like a magical shop, um, that just kinda provides the setting for where
Yeah,
they find the first of the Starlight.
yeah, for like plot device. Okay.
Um, but yeah, you're right. I feel like the Emporium, the actual place doesn't really have much of a importance after the Starlight becomes the center of attention of the story.
Yeah. Especially because in that last, 40%, we're switching between Twain and Quinta. And a lot of the time we're following Quinta, who has at this point been kidnapped and is in a completely different country. um, so the Vermilion Emporium kind of doesn't become really relevant anymore until closer to the end, like maybe the last like 10,
Yeah.
15%.
Yeah, and I guess they were like towards the end, we kind of get more information about it. They were like, oh, if you go ahead and explore some more, whatever you need, you will find.
Hmm.
And then more people, like outside of obviously our two main characters, more people from like wherever they live start coming in and they find things that they need.
Yeah.
So it's like this little magic shop. But I thought that was cool.
So the only thing that I really feel like I couldn't visualize is what kind of world are we in? Like, is it is it supposed to be kind of like a regency world and there's magic, or is it supposed to be like present time and there's magic? I wasn't really getting
No,
present time vibes. Like a fantasy
no,
world.
I think I agree with you. I think it's like a regency time period because there is a queen and kings. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously we have kings nowadays, obviously, but
More relevant
they
then.
they traveled by a ship, didn't they, to the new
Yes,
guys?
they
So
did. You're right.
I don't know. Every time there's a ship, I always think like no real modern technology. So I'm thinking like Regency time period and um, with some magical realism
Yeah.
is what I was
Okay.
thinking.
That makes sense. Um, excuse me, sorry. Um, so towards the end, we get some kind of crazy um revelations with Twain and Sorsha, and I can't remember the other person's name. So Sorsha is the person who runs the Vermillion Emporium. Um, and then I cannot remember. Oh, Marcel. There we go. Marcel is the map maker that we meet kind of towards the end when Twain needs to rescue Quinta. Good.
Yeah.
um, so I actually was not expecting the reveal that we got that um, Twain is the grandson of Sorsha and Marcel.
Hmm.
I really didn't see it going that direction.
Yeah, because he was an orphan for most of the story, right? And then the
Mhm.
only other family he had was his brother, who
Who had passed away.
who had tragically died. So yeah,
And then
I feel like
also,
though, do you think it added to the story? I don't feel like it
I don't
changed
think it did.
anything for me. I mean, yeah, it was cool that he finds out he has family, but at that point um he had Quinta, and I don't know, he's been so long alone. I
Mhm.
don't feel like it mattered at that point anymore that we find some relative that he didn't know he had anymore.
So at the end, Sorsha dies, and we find all this out on her deathbed. I don't think she necessarily had to die. I think we could if he was not her grandson, she could have stayed alive, and then this would have been like a taking under the wing kind of situation. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
think that could have worked really well too.
yeah, yeah. I agree with you.
Um, I do like that. Well, I do like that it worked out that because he was a blood relative, he was able to take on the Emporium. So now they had a place to live and they weren't going to be homeless anymore.
And it's a
Um
really cool place.
yeah. Um but again, I don't think the relationship was necessary, and I don't think Sorsha dying was necessary either. Plus we also have this like random side thing with Mrs. Davenport, who is like a side character who wants to be magical but isn't.
Yeah. She wants to be
And
part of like that witches club thing.
yeah, and apparently she was supposed to take care of Twain and his brother after his parents passed away, or at least give
Oh
them some
yeah.
money.
Yeah, yeah. The her husband was tasked to take care of the boys, and then he died, and then Mrs. Davenport just decided she didn't want them. So yeah.
Yeah, so there was also that random side situation. And it seemed like she became more relevant as the story went on, because in the beginning she was just a random character that was there.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I agree. But I don't know. I even though in the beginning I didn't like her because she obviously didn't complete her duties that she and her husband had agreed on.
Hmm.
She I don't know, she entertained me for some reason. And the fact that she was trying so hard to join this like women's society club that's a witch based or whatever, she entertained me a little bit.
She kind of also felt like very like aloof.
Yeah.
Like, no, maybe that's why she was so entertaining. Like, no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I think she's just there for, I don't know, bring them back to Earth kind of thing because they were so invested in finding more starlight and creating more fabric.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
She was
some like
just,
comedic relief.
yeah.
I hear that. Okay, let me look at my review here.
So this has been on your NetGalley waiting to be reviewed for 5 years, four
This
years.
this came out in November 2022. So I was so happy. I think I texted you and Elizabeth when I was like, I reviewed the oldest one on my
Yeah.
NetGalley. And now it has me like on such a high that because I did another NetGalley review today for something I finished yesterday. I checked out from the library the next oldest thing on my NetGalley, which I think was, if it's not 2022, it's like sometime in 2023 that it came out.
What's your percentage at right now?
65, I think.
How many
Is that
books do you have to review?
like
Read a
30,
review.
30-ish? It's not
Oh,
bad.
it's not
It's
bad.
no, my approved, I looked at this earlier today. My approved is 102 and my feedback sent is like 65 or 66.
Okay, that's not bad.
No, I don't think so. At one point, maybe for like 2 seconds, it was 80% last year. Um, Not anymore, obviously. But I'm trying. It's hard. Um, so do you think that obviously you and I both don't really read a lot of YA anymore. Um, but this author, in addition to having her two YA rom-coms, I've noticed is branching out more in the fantasy genre. I
Okay.
don't know if it's like a heavy fantasy or what. But she has I think it's a duology. I just saw that the second one is starting to come out that she's written with another author, and then she herself has two other fantastical, I don't want to say heavy fantasy, but like fantastical books out. The second one, if it's not already out, it's coming out sometime this year. Do you think that you would pick up other ones from this author?
Yeah, just because I was pleasantly surprised by this book
Hmm.
that, even though I wasn't particularly in love with the relationship between the two characters,
Hmm.
I liked the story that she wove. I liked the world that she created. I thought the whole thing with Starlight and all the revelations that she put in there, all the little twists, even being a YA fantasy, I really enjoyed it. I think she did a great job creating a very unique world. So yeah, I would be interested in reading some of her other stuff.
So I know I have an arc of the second one in this series. I don't know if I have the first one. I
Oh,
haven't
there's
read.
another. I thought this was a standalone. Okay.
No, 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 not this one. Sorry, different duology.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Okay.
but she has a book called The Absinthe Underground that came out last year. No, 2024. Came out in 2024. And it says it is Moulin Rouge meets Holly Black in a thrilling sapphic friends to lovers romantasy.
Hmm. Okay.
So I'm wondering how heavy on the romantasy it is. And then the one that I have an arc for, I got it at Love Y'all a couple months ago. It's set in the same world called the Hyacinth Labyrinth. And it says a whimsical adventure full of magic, fantastical road trips, and a sapphic, slow burn, friends to lovers romance for fans of Sorcery of Thorns and Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. And that, let me see. Oh, it just came out like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Um, and then she writes a duology. The first one is called Homegrown Magic with Rebecca Podos. And then the second one that's coming out in August is Homeward for a Spell. Um, And it looks like the second one is labeled as a romantic fantasy. I don't know if there's a difference between a romantic fantasy and a romantasy, but that's what it's labeled as. I definitely recommend. So this is only the third book that I've read by this author, but I definitely recommend "The Life in Medieval Times" of Kit
What did you
Sweetly.
rate the other two books that you read?
Let me look. For the Life in Medieval Times one, I read it in 2020 and rated a 5. And for Lucky Girl, I read it. Apparently, I had an arc. Apparently, I was on her street team. All right. I had. Oh Jesus, hold on. I read it in 2021, and I gave it 4 stars.
Okay.
I it's even though it's been a minute since I read the medieval times one, it was so good. I remember it being so good. It's like this girl gets a job at like a medieval times like place. Do you know what medieval times is?
Yeah.
Okay. It's been years since I've been to a medieval times, but it was great.
Also, it's modern. It's not
Yeah.
actually set in medieval times.
Those are her 2 contemporary ones. Yeah. They're
Okay.
modern.
Okay.
But yeah, even though I'm not a huge fantasy reader, I do think I will read. I don't. It'll probably take another 4 years, but I will probably read the other ones that she has released. The more like fantasy ones.
Yeah. Hopefully, it doesn't take you 4 years.
I actually got an email like a week or two ago that was like whoever publishes the one that she writes with the other author, they were like they sent me an email with the auto approval for the NetGalley book that was coming out, the Homeward Grown or whatever the second one is, and I didn't realize that it was her and another author. And I was like, oh, I'll look at this later. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh shit, I didn't even know that this was coming out. And then I saw that it was number 2, and I was like, I haven't read number 1, so I'm not going to take it. But it was there. So eventually I'll get to it. Is there anything else you want to discuss about this book before we go into final thoughts?
One thing. The description on Goodreads says that this is a Radium Girls meets House Moving Castle. I can see the House Moving Castle, but I don't see the Radium Girls. And she had like an author's note towards the end, at least in the audiobook there was, and she was talking about why a little bit more of why she compared why she equated this book to a little bit of the Radium Girls, in that these girls were well, I mean, in Radium Girls, they weren't really forced; they were uninformed. But she was like, where they had to do a job, and it cost them. It was dangerous. It was unhealthy in a way, and I was like, I don't see that necessarily. So if anybody is watching this and they're seeing all Radium Girls kind of thing, that's not the vibes that this book gives. There's definitely like the starlight ends up the way they get the starlight is definitely dangerous because they have to take it from within themselves, and the more you take, the more you become weaker, and it's a like essentially taking your life force, like as I mentioned in the beginning, it feels like it's taking your soul. um but I didn't really see Radiant Girl vibes in this book, so but that's the only other thing I noticed.
I don't know anything about the Radium Girls, so I was kind of just going with it. Howl's Moving Castle, I know a little bit about, but
Yeah.
not much at all.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my final thoughts on this book are it was 4 stars. I enjoyed it while I was reading it, and I am really happy to have read the oldest book on my NetGalley TBR.
Yeah, definitely 4 stars for me. I enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised. I'm not gonna lie, when I first started reading this book, I kept to like blinking out. So I would have to I restarted the book because I would like start not paying attention like the first 10 minutes, and I would have to restart the book like 10 different times before I eventually got into it. And I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this book. But you're right. It's not a book that you fly through because it's so good. It's just a book that you pick up and you enjoy it while you're reading.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Which I feel like I haven't really had that feeling recently that I can think of.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just like, wow, I'm reading something and I'm just reading for the joy of reading. All right, well, let's talk about July. Let me pull up my calendar here. That's the clock. That doesn't help me. All right. So, in July, we are going to be reading Cherry Baby by Rainbow Rowell. I don't know much about this book. When I was doing our graphic to post on Instagram, I read a little bit of the synopsis, but not too much. Basically, Cherry's husband has left her to go make a movie, but what other people don't know is that he's just left her. And he has a character that is based off of her that she doesn't like, and that's all I know. So very excited to read this. I recently, like within the last year, 2 years, reread Fangirl, which is Rainbow Rowell's YA. And I feel like it's been a while since I've read a Rainbow Rowell book, a new book.
Yeah.
Because I haven't read Slow Dance. But very excited to pick this up. We are going to be discussing it on Sunday. Hold on, make sure my days are right here. Sunday, July 26th at 7 p.m. on my channel. For anything related to the Booktube Chicks and updates for the Booktube Chicks, follow us on Instagram at Booktube Chicks. We're going to post the date and time again for this book. Also, we do Pages and Pals over on Kat's channel. We are going to be meeting on July 31st at 8 p.m. for that. And then Quarterly Romance should be solidifying a date and having their post coming out next week as well, because we're about to enter Q3 of 2026. So hopefully you will join us for the Cherry Baby live show. Thank you for joining us to discuss The Vermillion Emporium by Jamie Pacton, and we will see you all next month. Bye.